In the world of dinosaurs, one name reigns supreme: Tyrannosaurus rex. The most feared, most famous predator of the prehistoric era. With bone-crushing jaws and a roar that could shake the ground, T-Rex was nature's ultimate heavyweight. But then, there are those arms, comically tiny and strangely awkward. For decades, they've been the punchline of jokes, the meme-worthy mystery of paleontology. It's making us question, how could such a massive, terrifying creature be stuck with limbs that look like a design error? Today, we're diving deep into this prehistoric puzzle to uncover the surprising science behind T-Rex's tiny arms. Stick around until the end, because they're not as useless as you think. Tyrannosaurus rex is the undisputed tyrant king of the Cretaceous period. Its name literally means tyrant lizard king. This prehistoric beast ruled the ancient world around 68 to 66 million years ago, stretching nearly 40 feet from snout to tail and weighing in at a massive 9 tons. It wasn't just big, it was a walking, roaring, bone-crushing machine. Its skull alone could grow up to 5 feet long, packed with banana-sized teeth and powered by jaws strong enough to deliver 12,800 pounds of bite force. That's enough to crush bone like it was a breadstick, or even bite through a car, if there had been any around to chomp on. But despite all that raw, terrifying power, there's one feature that always manages to steal the spotlight: those arms. T-Rex's arms were, well, comically tiny. Just about 3 feet long, shorter than most people's arms, and practically disappearing under the shadow of its enormous body. On a creature that stood 12 feet tall at the hips, they looked wildly out of place, like evolution forgot to finish the job. Naturally, people became obsessed. From viral memes and t-shirts to Hollywood punchlines, those stumpy limbs became the biggest inside joke in dinosaur history. Now you might be wondering, why did T-Rex have such tiny arms? Were they always that way from the very beginning? To really understand how the king of the dinosaurs ended up with those oddly small limbs, we need to rewind the evolutionary clock and take a closer look at its ancient relatives. Because the story of those stubby arms is less about comic relief and more about power, survival, and some smart evolutionary trade-offs. Despite how iconic those tiny arms are today, early ancestors of Tyrannosaurus rex actually had much longer limbs. Dinosaurs like Guanlong and Yutyrannus, who lived tens of millions of years before T-Rex, sported arms that looked far more proportional to their bodies. These earlier relatives weren't as massive or as bitey, so they relied more on their arms for hunting and balance. But as the T-Rex lineage evolved, something interesting happened. Their skulls started getting bigger, a lot bigger. Over time, evolution beefed up their heads and bite force, while slowly shrinking the arms. Why would evolution shrink something as seemingly useful as arms? Well, that's because when you're packing a bite force of nearly 13,000 pounds, strong enough to crush bone like potato chips, your mouth becomes the main weapon. T-Rex didn't need to grab prey with its arms when its massive jaws could do all the dirty work. And let's be honest, having big arms flailing around near a set of crushing teeth probably wasn't ideal. They'd get in the way, get injured, or be totally unnecessary during a takedown. So evolution took the efficient route. Shrink the arms, strengthen the jaws, and build up the neck and torso to support that brute force. In the end, nature isn't concerned with what looks normal. It cares about what works. Sure, those tiny arms look hilariously awkward, like someone hit skip arm day for 100 million years straight. But they weren't a mistake. They were a clever adaptation. By shrinking its arms, T-Rex made room for stronger neck muscles, a more compact upper body, and better balance, key ingredients for staying on top as a fearsome predator. Now, before we jump to conclusions about what those tiny arms were good for, let's clear up some of the biggest misconceptions that have stuck around. because the truth behind T-Rex's stubby limbs is way more fascinating than the jokes suggest. First off, could T-Rex use its arms to hold down prey? Nope, not even close. Those arms were ridiculously short, and their awkward position, set high and way back on the chest, made reaching anything in front of its massive body nearly impossible. So it's impossible to wrestle down a struggling Triceratops with those little limbs. What about helping hatchlings climb out of eggs? Well, that's only true for the babies, whose limbs were proportionally bigger and more functional. But once they grew up, those tiny arms were definitely not doing any heavy lifting. And as for using the arms to help with balance while running, that's a no-go too. T-Rex relied on its powerful, muscular legs and a massive tail that acted like a built-in counterweight, keeping it steady during fast, powerful sprints. So yeah, the arms might look like a prehistoric design fail or some kind of evolutionary joke, but the reality is they just weren't built for the tasks we usually imagine. So what were they actually for? Here's where things take an unexpectedly fascinating and slightly awkward turn. Despite looking like prehistoric T-Rex doll arms, those limbs were no weak noodles. In fact, each one could lift over 400 pounds. Some scientists think they played a key role in mating. Yep, not exactly the ferocious battle move we all imagined, but still essential. When you're a 9-ton dinosaur trying to balance during an ancient love story, having a pair of strong, compact arms to help grip your partner could make all the difference. It's not glamorous, but it's practical. Think less of it as monster attack, and more of prehistoric cuddle assist. But romance isn't the only theory. Another idea suggests T-Rex used its arms to push itself off the ground after a good rest. Or, let's be honest, an epic faceplant. With that massive head and torso, a little arm boost could go a long way. Another theory suggests that those arms had claws about 4 inches long, sharp enough to do damage at close range. So it probably served as a last-ditch self-defense move, like a dinosaur version of elbowing someone in a crowded elevator. So while T-Rex's arms may look like evolution's inside joke, they weren't just along for the ride. They were sturdy, useful, and probably more helpful than we've ever given them credit for. Sure, they didn't match the terror of its jaws, but when you're already the apex predator of your time, you don't need flashy extras. Sometimes even kings prefer utility over flair. Thanks for sticking with us on this deep dive into the mystery of T-Rex's tiny arms. If you enjoyed exploring these fascinating stories, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Have a topic you'd like us to dive into next? Let us know in the comments. Join us as we get animated about science at Animated Science.